Greetings and salutations, loyal viewers of this channel. My name is Sean, and today we're going to talk about the so-called high-tech gates that are being installed in New York City subway stations, and how, of course, they're a complete and utter failure, and in under a month, New Yorkers who don't want to pay for the subway have cracked the code. They figured out how these gates work, and now we're seeing video after video being posted online teaching people who don't want to pay for the subway how to avoid getting caught up with these new technologies. But before we get into that, I want to thank everybody who signed up over at actualjusticewarrior.com/join.
Give me the money. Give me the money. Okay.
And thank you to the podcast listeners, Spotify, Apple, and Google's podcasting platform.
MTA has spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on these new subway platform gates to try to crack down on fare evaders.
So the question, does it make a difference? Our cameras seeing a lot of people today running past the gates. They're skipping their fares for a free ride.
So the first thing that I want you guys out there in the audience to take note of is the cost of putting in these new gates at the subway stations across the city of New York, because right now we're in at around $700,000 for just one train station in the city of New York, and this is the Jamaica station that is in and around JFK Airport. So they spent $700,000 to put in these new gates, and already people are cracking them. They're already fare evading through them, and you could see that with the video, the B-roll that is behind these local news anchors, which just goes to show you that we are in for yet another MTA boondoggle among a long train of boondoggles, pun intended, from the Mass Transit Authority.
Watch to the left of your screen, and it's 5 for the price of 1 as passengers scurry into the subway behind a single paying customer.
So I love that the local news went down there, they went to videotape this, and in just one day, even with the big hulking news camera behind this guy reporting on it, you see 5 people, including one person who is trying to pay at a different gate, all dash through for the price of 1, which, by the way, is not something that you would have been able to do with the regular turnstile thing that only turns once per swipe of the card or of the payment method that is being utilized. So already, and I mean already, we have a giant problem. We have a gate that appears to be easier to fare evade, and not just because of what you just saw right here on the video. There's actually already a fare evasion hack being posted and going around on Twitter and on YouTube Shorts, because I guess YouTube Shorts can encourage people to commit crimes in the city of New York, because the city of New York encourages people to commit crimes in the city of New York, which shows you that if you put your hand by the sensor when you're supposed to be going over, it will read you as somebody on the other side and open up for you. Absolutely great stuff right there. Definitely worth the $700,000 price tag for just this one station.
We're learning, and I'm learning with our customers.
Kumel Arroyo is the MTA's Chief Accessibility Officer and Senior Advisor to the MTA Chairman.
I wanted to see how the customers were going to utilize that gate, good and bad.
So I just want to say, this guy who's like, we're learning, and I'm learning with the customers, I hate him. I hate his face, and I hate everything about him, because guess what? When people are not paying, they're not customers, they're thieves. Theft of public services is what is going on right here, and your fancy new gate, your new technology that you're already having to defend just 1 month in, now that people have cracked it, isn't living up to the promises put forward, and that's because what actually needs to happen to reduce fare evasion is for us to have law enforcement arrest people for fare evasion.
1 month into the $700,000 pilot program, it's easy to see what still doesn't work. Watch the guy in the backpack scurry behind a paying customer. Now watch this woman put down her big box, which inadvertently opens the sensor gate.
Here at the Actual Justice Warrior channel, we appreciate the local news. We appreciate on-the-ground reporting, even from outlets whose perspective we disagree with. That being said, saying that this woman inadvertently put her bag over the gate, which, by the way, these gates are meant to open in a way that you can pass through with your bag and then just walk through like it was a happy accident, is absurd and ridiculous in every possible way. She did this on purpose because this is the mechanism that you can use in order to get through this gate without paying it, and the local news should acknowledge that, especially when they're doing a segment on fare evasion. She might have given us a little bit of jubilation when she got through, but make no mistake about this, obviously she did this on purpose because this is the way you get around the system.
But the MTA says don't be fooled. For most riders, these new wider gates are allowing passengers with luggage to more easily pay.
Now, the MTA guy says, oh, don't be fooled by the video. Don't be fooled by everybody pointing out how easy it is to get around this. Right now, when this just started, before people figured it out, we had a little bit of an uptick in people paying for this station at this particular location. So that means it's all good in the hood. Again, that's because we only started to see people broadcasting very publicly how to beat the system here. So expect that number to go down because guess what? Across the city, fare evasion is dramatically up. Let's get into the numbers so you could understand how bad things actually are.
A special panel found the MTA lost $500 million to fare evaders in 2021, $690 million in 2022, a 38% increase. The panel's main finding, the fiscal losses caused by fare and toll evasion are staggering.
Yeah, you heard that correctly. In 2021, fare evasion was at $500 million. In 2022, that jumped up to $690 million, aka almost $700 million a loss in people not paying for the subway. And to be real, there's an easy way to stop this problem. There's an easy way to solve it, and that is if you're caught not paying for the subway, if you're caught jumping the turnstile, then you need to be arrested. Unfortunately, New York City operates well too often like this, where you have a guy videotaping another guy beating the subway system, jumping the turnstile in this particular way, right in front of the police, and yet no arrest is made. This is because we had policy changes that said that this just wasn't worth it to do it anymore. We have bail reform, which releases these people same day automatically, so there's no accountability for it, and a bunch of other issues that cater to the criminal while harming the average everyday citizen. On top of that, the solution that was pushed by Governor Andrew Cuomo, by Kathy Hochul, by former Mayor Bill de Blasio, and to his credit, Eric Adams at least appears to be against it, is congestion pricing. More tolls for drivers in order to compensate for this deficit that the MTA is dealing with.
We run the risk of having the culture of fare evasion becoming permanently embedded in our community.
So without getting too conspiratorial about this, I think that the city of New York is not actually all that concerned with fare evasion. I think that the city of New York wants to implement new things in order to tax people in new ways, like congestion pricing, like putting speed cameras on the highway, which by the way is something that they want to do and they're going to start doing very soon, and like adding noise cameras that fine people $800 for honking their horn in the city of New York, which by the way is also something that is being implemented. The fact that the MTA is always on the verge of going broke provides all of these different pretexts in order to tax drivers, in order to destroy other parts of the economy, and the people in power in the city of New York will never let an opportunity like this go to waste, even if a congestion price, a toll for driving in the city, is going to raise the cost of absolutely everything because goods are transported throughout New York City on trucks just like everywhere else, and raising tolls are costs that are going to be passed down to the consumers. And by the way, what makes this incredibly stupid and much, much worse is we already know that enforcing fare evasion, actually arresting people for jumping the turnstiles, has so many positive downstream effects on criminality, not to mention the fact that you're creating a deterrent for people jumping the turnstiles. It was discovered way back in the 80s when William Bratton was the head of the MTA police before he was the NYPD commissioner, that when you arrest people doing this kind of thing, you actually have the downstream effect of driving down theft and other crime in the interior of Manhattan. This is because people who are going to violate bigger laws, who are going to pickpocket, who are going to do all of these crazy things once they get into the city, are also likely to be the same kind of people who will not pay for the subway and follow the rules of society in their particular neighborhood. So cutting them off before they get into the interior of the city was a logical policy implemented by the NYPD, implemented by the MTA police, that of course was thrown away under the de Blasio administration so that these deficits could fester even worse, so that the criminals could get yet another break, and we're all suffering the consequences of those actions. On top of that, one of the things that was discovered when Bratton implemented these policies and actually brought processing to the stations so you could check if people pop for warrants, is that 1 out of every 7 people that they arrested way back when for jumping the turnstiles actually had a felony warrant against them. So that was, again, a good entry point in order to get these criminals off the streets before they impact people. And we've seen a bunch of different situations where people are going crazy on the train. They're attacking people, they're threatening people, and then ultimately they end up getting killed, just like the Jordan Neely case, just like that other case with the stabbing, which of course, because the suspect was not a white person, the charges were dropped. You end up in situations where the people of New York have to suffer due to these people who aren't paying for the train being in there all the time and causing immense problems, immense trouble.
In recent months, they've tested high-tech solutions like this model. Watch what happens if you try to sneak behind another passenger. A buzzer sounds. The problem? It's not on the market yet.
I mean, even that gate right there that does the big beeping noise when somebody doesn't pay for the train, when somebody gets in behind the next person, isn't going to mean all that much if there's no enforcement mechanism behind this. All we're doing right here is paying off somebody who owns a company who's likely a politically connected constituent of the mayor or of members of the city council in order to line their pockets without actually solving the problem. They've actually put up less effective barriers than we had before because, again, these gates remain open for multiple people to cross through, and whether they have a buzzer or not, if there's nobody making an arrest on the other side, they're just going to walk through whether, again, there's a buzzer or not, because you just made it all the easier for them to do so. Look, the fact of the matter is, fare evasion is a real problem. The MTA is running deficits year after year. They're going broke because apparently only the government can lose money doing trains in the city of New York, and that leads to other taxes, other things like congestion pricing that affect other law-abiding citizens rather than cutting to the heart of the issue. And for those of you who are like, this is just a crime of poverty, you're trying to arrest the poor, Sean, how dare you? I will point out that there are a number of programs that make it easier, less expensive, and sometimes even free for people to ride the subway in the city of New York if you're actually genuinely in poverty. All you're doing by putting the poverty blanket over this problem is covering up for the criminals, allowing theft to run rampant in the interior of the city, allowing people who could be stopped and popped for warrants to get through off scot-free without any issue, and creating deficit after deficit year after year for the MTA that of course is being paid for on the backs of drivers. So while I would like to do a more happy video about how this is another goofy failure of the MTA, in reality, in actuality, they're getting everything that they want. They're getting new revenue streams despite the fact that they don't deserve it, and the city council and the mayor are getting to pay off a company that likely contributed to most, if not all, of the people who are approving this frivolous spending. It is corruption 101, and that's how I feel about it. But if you disagree with me, let me know your wrong opinion down in the comments below. If you like this video, then show me by leaving a like, subscribe for more content, follow me on my social medias, support me via the support links in the description of this video. This has been me talking about the MTA failing yet again. Till next time.